Hi everyone. Today I'm going to give you a lesson on percents. As promised, I'm going to pull that up on my screen on Kami. As usual, I'll also post this for you guys to look at the exercises, the Kami download. All right, so we're looking at kind of just basic percent problems and just the basic concept of percent. Remember that when we're talking about percent, the word itself, cent means 100, and per is kind of like out of, so out of every 100. So percents are used to kind of think about or come up with a ratio to think of, okay, well, if this number was out of 100, then what would our percent be, or what would be kind of like the number that would represent the part that we're talking about. So kind of some easy things in terms of percent that I kind of like to talk about. So remember that percent is out of 100. So think of 100% as being like a full circle. And so if, let's say I split the circle up into 10 pieces, I'm going to try to do that. So that's 4, or actually let's start with this. So let's say I split up 100% into 4 pieces. Each of those pieces is going to represent 25%. And if we think of that in terms of fractions, like one piece of these 25% is going to be the same as 1/4. So let's say that you're trying to find 25% of, let's say, 40, then that's the same thing as finding 1/4 of 40. And so then that would be 10. Essentially, that's the same as dividing 40 into 4 pieces, right? So 1/4 of something would be dividing it by 4, by whatever that denominator may be. What I was going to do with the 10 is that 10 is kind of the same thing, meaning that if I have, let's say, 100% is the full circle, and I divide this into 10 pieces, my 10 pieces aren't going to look that great. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's say I have 10 pieces. Each of these is going to be 10%. So if I need to find, let's say, 10% of, again, we'll do 40, then that's the same as dividing it into 10 pieces. So 10% of 40 would be 4. Now, finding 10% of something makes it easy, because then if you can just think of 10% is the same as dividing it into 10 pieces, then if, let's say, I want to find 20% of 40, then all we have to do is find what 10% is and multiply it by 2. So we know that 10% of 40 is 4, so 20% is going to be 8, because there's two 10% in 20. And so then that's kind of like an easy way to calculate other percentages. Always remember that the word of means to multiply, so you can always solve a problem like this as well. If we turn 20% into a decimal, which is going to be 0.20, and then you multiply that times 40. So 0.20 times 40 is also going to be 8. So the word of always means multiplication, and just remember that. So anytime you have the percent of something, just turn that percent into a decimal and then multiply by what that piece that they're talking about. So kind of like basics of percents would be changing a percent to a decimal. So to do this, you always move it twice, excuse me, to the left. So this is going to be 0.75, move it twice, 1.55, move it twice. Here there's no number there, so we add a 0, so 0.07. Here the decimal is here, so we're going to move it there. So that's going to be 0.0937. When you change to a percent, you go the other direction. So then that would be 73%. On this one, we would move it twice, 0.31%. So regardless of where the decimal is, you always just move it twice. This one, I'm going to move it twice this way, add a 0, so then that's 940%. So to change to a decimal, then you're going to move to the left. To change to a percent, then you move it to the right. I'm not going to go over how to convert percents to fractions, just because that's not necessarily something that you would do on the SAT. But what you do is that you just put it over 100, and then you reduce the fraction. Now, changing 2%, this I would say just do on your calculator. So on your calculator, enter 7 divided by 10, and you would get 0.7. And then we can convert it to a percent by doing 70%. If you have 3 and 1/4, then just calculate what the 1/4 is, and you're going to see that it's 0.25. So then that's 325%. So just put those in your calculator because those are easy to do that way. All right, so here's a word problem. So here we have Teresa set 48% of his company's profits aside for investment purposes. If his company profited 395,000 last year, how much was set aside for investing? So here we know that this is 48% of the profits. This gives me the profits, which is the 395,000. So then to calculate this, then I'm just going to do 0.48 times 395,000. So just keeping that in mind in terms of that of is multiplication, then that simplifies your percent finding a lot. And so then I'm just going to put that in my calculator. And so then that's 189,600. So 18 is a similar example. So we have at the movie theater, the 7 showing sold 75% of the tickets available. If the theater sits 900 people, how many tickets were sold? So then that's 75% of the tickets available. So the tickets available would be the 900 because that's how many tickets they can sell. And so then we're just going to do 75% of 900. And so again, we're just going to turn that into a decimal and then multiply that times 900. So 0.75 times 900. So that's 675 tickets. Number 19 is a little bit different. So for 19, we have that Bo spent 900 of the $1,200 jackpot he had won on clothing. What percent of his jackpot did he spend on clothes? So here what you're going to do is that you're going to create a fraction where you're going to put the part that he spent over the total amount and then change that into a percent. So here what he spent was $900 out of $1,200. And so then I'm just going to divide that again in my calculator. And so then that comes out to 0.75. And so then I would make that into 75%. For number 20, we have the ratio of men and women at the ice cream social was 3 to 5. What percent of the people attending at the social were men? Now notice that this says percent of the people attending were men. So here, this was the men and this is the women. So there were 3 men, and in terms of the total number of people, we're gonna add the 3 and the 5 together, and so then that's 8. So I'm gonna put 3 divided by 8 in my calculator, and so that's 0.375, and so then that would be 37.5%. Deidre spends 30% of her monthly budget goes to groceries. If she spent $420 a month on groceries, how much is a total monthly budget? So now this one's a little bit different because we need to solve for the total and we know how much she spends. So there's a couple of ways to set this up. So here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say 30% of her monthly budget, but I don't know what her monthly budget is. So I'm going to make that X. And that 30% is equal to the 420. So then now I can make this into an equation where it turns into 0.30 times X is equal to 420. And I can solve it just by dividing by 0.30 on both sides. So anytime that you're going back to the original number, you're always going to end up dividing. So if you're finding the percentage part, then you're going to multiply. But if you know the percentage point part and you want to go back to the total, then you're going to divide. So same thing here. We have Simon determined that he sold 150 neckties so far this year. This is 12.5% of what he hopes to sell for the year. How many ties does he plan on selling? So again, we have 12.5% of what he hopes to sell. And so then that's what we need to find. How much does he hope to sell? And so then that, and so far the 12.5 represents the 150 ties. Sorry, my cat just woke up. So then from there, what we're going to do is just turn it into a decimal. So we're going to put 125 times x is equal to 150. And so then we're going to divide both sides by 0.125. So 150 divided by 0.125, that's 1200. So then he wants to sell 1200 ties for the year. So those are kind of like three of the basic percent problems that you would see. One where you're given the percent and the total, so you multiply. And others where you have to find the percent, so then you divide the part that you want over the total and then turn that into a percent. And the other one is where they give you the percent and the part and you have to find the total. So those are kind of like the three basic type of questions that you're going to see. This one is similar in terms of we're finding a percent. So we have Bikini Hut is putting all its swimsuits on sale during the month of January. A suit that regularly sells for $42 costs $33.60 in January. What is the discount rate? So here we want to find the discount rate. So the first thing that we're going to do is subtract the two numbers so that we can find what is the discount. So how much money did I take off of this bathing suit? And so the discount is $8.40. So then now I'm going to try to figure out, okay, well, the discount is what percent of the total? And so then I'm going to divide that. And so then that comes out to 0.2, which is going to be 20%. And the last two problems that I want to do is this one having to do with sales tax. So anytime that you have sales tax, essentially what you're going to do is just take your number and then multiply it times your percent, which has to be turned into a decimal. However, and then once you find that, then that is your tax. So in this case, this is 10, I'm going to round 56. And then you add it back to your pricing, right? Because the tax is going to be then added to whatever it is that you are buying. However, an easy step that you can take is that the percent is something that you are adding to this, like to the total amount. So another way that you could do is that you could do 175 times 1.06. The 1.06, what it does is that it already includes a 175 in there so that you don't have to add it back. So then you can do it all in one step. Because in essence, and then you would get the same answer, the 186.55. Because in essence here, you're buying the set plus, so it's a set plus 0.06. So this is kind of like having 1 plus 0.06. And so then that's why you can do it that way. When it comes to multiple percents, you can't ever add or subtract the percents from each other. You have to calculate each one separately. So for example, like if something says that you have a 20% discount, but then it goes up by 20%, that doesn't cancel each other out. Or if you have like a 20% coupon and then a 10% discount, that doesn't mean that you get 30% off. It's going to be less just because a 10% is from a smaller amount from the original. Here we have a $3,500 piano cost. If it was, how much would a $3,500 piano cost if it was on sale for 20% off with the sales percent, 6% sales tax? So here we're going to do 3,500 times 0.20. And so that's going to give me my discount. And so then that's a discount of $700. So then I'm going to do 3,500 minus 700. And so then that's going to give me my new sale price. Now remember, an easier way to do this is that I could actually just do 3,500 times 0.80 instead of 0.20. Because if I'm taking 20% off, then that means I'm paying 80% of the price. And so by just multiplying by 0.80, I simplify and don't have to then do the whole subtraction. And I still get the same number. I get 2,800. Now here we have a 6% sales tax. So I could do what I did before. And instead of just multiplying by 0.06, I can multiply by 1.06. And so then that way, again, I don't have to do two different calculations. And so then that's 29.68. So just to recap, if you're doing a discount, then do 100% minus whatever the percent discount is, and then use that percent. And if you're doing a tax or some other type of added amount, then you're going to do 100% plus whatever that other percent is. So for example, if I'm buying something that's 25% off, then I'm going to multiply by 0.75, and that's already going to give me my discounted price. If I pay a 5% tax, then I'm going to add that to 100, and that means I'm going to pay 105%, which is the same as 1.05. All right. I hope this was a helpful little quick percent review. Please feel free to ask me any questions or clarification on any of the questions. Thanks. Have a good day.